How do you do another one share? I guess you, oh, I see. Save.
All right. Okay. And then where am I at right here? Okay.
I am not.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We are back with the True Life Podcast. I hope everyone had a beautiful Christmas. I hope you have a wonderful New Year. I hope you got something good in your stocking and you're surrounded by the people that love you. Because I have a show for you today that I think you're going to love. I hope everybody is ready to embark on a transformative journey with a phenomenal guest on the True Life Podcast. Allow me to introduce the remarkable Dr. Nhu Truong, a beacon of inspiration for those yearning to break free from the clutches of burnout and embrace a purpose-driven life. Imagine a world where resilience, mindfulness, and fulfillment converge. Are you caught in the corporate burnout cycle, struggling to balance the demands of work, family, and personal well-being? Well, Dr. Nhu is here to guide you towards a future where burnout fades, replaced by vitality, and stress surrenders to purpose. With 13 years in pharmacy leadership and over 23 years of expertise spanning beauty, wellness, pharmacy, and medical sectors, her journey from burnout-induced health crisis to holistic living fuels her passion for empowering others. As the founder and CEO of KN Health Consulting, she navigates the realms of holistic practices, mindful integration, and impactful lifestyle changes, ensuring remarkable results. Doctor, thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
What an intro, George. How are you? Hope you have a good holidays and thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's truly an honor and I'm blessed to not only call you my dear friend and I'm so proud and such an inspiration to so many.
Well, thank you for the kind words. And I've done well for Christmas. My family is happy and healthy, and that means my extended family as well. So I'm really blessed to get to be here and speak to cool people like you and hopefully say some words that are there to help inspire other people. So, maybe for my guests who may not know a little bit about your journey, you're an author, a wellness coach, a consultant, a doctor, you're so many things. How did you, maybe you could tell people a little bit about your backstory, about what gave you the courage and the tenacity to become who you are today?
Wow. There's so many reasons, but I think one of the thing, the pivotal moments that I would say I need to be the voice for others would be when I see people burning out and literally in the healthcare realm. For someone in a healthcare to say in a wellness space to really take care of someone, it's a reflection of you have to take care of your people, meaning your employee and your staff and your colleague. And I think that as someone to wanting to attempt, not myself, but as a coworker that worked with me wanting to attempt suicide for the second time, that has been like a rude awakening for me because just not only seeing the day-to-day hustle and grind of someone showing up and a lot of things in the back end, meaning family issues and things, but as employer, not really getting to know and saying, I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on, but maybe we can have a conversations or is there something we can do? I think not acknowledging, right, that as a human being, something is not right, a red flag. But
Mhm.
no, it's not even having any of that. It's just saying, I don't care. I want you to show up unless you're dead. Like literally, it's just that metaphor, meaning I want you to be here. And it's just that sad situation when you're thinking about even if it's a nephew or for her family, it's not something that you should. I think because I see myself, if you were in their shoe, what would you do? If you were a family oriented and you got nobody else to help out, you're the aunt who doesn't have kids, but you want to take care. So it's just a heartbreaking when I see, and it's not just one time, it's just, I
Right.
think it's multiple layers, right? You see a lot of things, George, and I think because when you're to that point, you're like, no, we have to make that change even in the bigger impact to amplify our voice to say that this isn't enough, right? Because healthcare, we're taking care of people. We cannot be a disservice, and that's not serving our people at all. That's a toxic, not only to your coworker, your worker. And then you come home, you're not going to be well. Look and
Right.
imagine all the things you bring home, right? So I think that
Right.
was like the moment I say, no, this is it. this is where I'm going to use all my skills, my experience, and all I think, and just as my perspective on we as a healthcare, even just human to human, like we're humankind, how we should treat one another. And because if we want to take care of ourselves, like well-being, like people pay a lot of money to not only beautify right on the surface, but also saying they're willing to put a lot of money to be well, right? When people in the status quo, but you cannot do that if you can't take care of the little things, right?
Yeah.
And that is like a pitiful, it's just, and in a Western world for us, it's like for people who don't even have anything, and then for coming in perspective of you wearing a mask, you're supposed to take care of patients. Now you're doing the hypocrite. You're just, doing it for money. That's all it
Right.
is. And I truly believe that you can thrive and you can be successful, but you have to take care of your people. At the end of the day, it does not matter, whatever religion, race, gender. But I think when you take care of one another, acknowledging, let's say if you're, and I have my UPS driver, right? When I was working in the field, no, literally, when I heard your story, George, my heart ached because I work in the field, right? And when every time I get a package, right, whether it's at home or when I'm at work, I thank all the people because it's like they work so hard. It does not matter for me. It's not the duties. Like even if it's a trash man or trash
Yeah.
woman, I think them like if it was the president. It's not you shouldn't have a bow down because you're the president, and then you should neglect the one that is doing your recycling or your trash. To me, they all equal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone has a role in this planet, in this universe that we call home, right?
Yeah.
Whatever time that we live in. So how about thinking of outside of saying, what if it's your brother and sister? What if it's your mother? How about if it's your kid? What would you do? How would you handle it? And I think that free shifting the mind, of saying our perspective and saying this is how we should think about, right? And it's so much easy. I think it's so very simple, but many people it's like I don't know what to do. People ask like, "What's your success? What is your, how did you do this and that?" But it's the truth. When you lead with love and kindness and empathy and really have compassion to help others, the rest will flow. That is the law. It doesn't matter if you believe in the higher divine or not, right? And that's where I think because when you show up as who you are, you're gonna attract so amazing people like you who want to help you. And that's how I truly believe that because so many amazing people, the moment I say enough is enough, and then I say I'm gonna show up differently because
Mm-hmm.
before I wasn't the type I don't need to tell what I need, like what I'm doing, but now the stories is what's gonna make people remember. Stories people kind of think about,
Yep.
and that is like it hit them in the heart, right? Versus, it's not to say that you're an important figure to say that you were there for that person, but it's reality of a wake up call for people who say they need to be awakened. Cannot be in the the hustle and then come back and saying now my health is so stressed out. I'm burnout, but sometimes you gotta pause, have a little reflection where we are now. How did we get here? How did I get here? Right? And I
Yep.
think it's sometimes looking in the mirror on our own self, not just looking point fingers, right? Why did you do that to me? No. A lot of time we have to own up to saying we are part of what happened now, right?
Yeah.
That is where how can we change? How can we move forward? That is the conversation that we need to have, not just the blame. There's no one to blame. We're all a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all guilty on some level. And I love the way in which you talk about meeting people in your life and having the same respect for them that you would have for a family member. It's a lot of the times I've learned is that the things you see in other people, especially the things that irritate you, are just things you need to fix in yourself. You know, if you see someone, they're often reminding you of things you don't like about yourself. And if you can be aware of that, for me, that's enough to make me start laughing and be like, oh my, I am such a knucklehead, or apologize, or just take that pause that you were talking about and be like, okay, this person that I was annoyed at is actually doing me a huge favor by showing me something I need to work on. And that's usually enough to change the entire perspective of the situation, and like it took a long time for me to get there, but if somebody listening to this can use this in a way it'll be transformative. And I really think that's a big part of understanding your environment, is understanding your relationships and why you feel the way you do. And you spoke about seeing people as family members and taking, especially in the healthcare industry, taking care of people and taking care of your people. It sounds to me like maybe this was something that was instilled in you at an early age. Like, was maybe you could speak a little bit about how you took care of your family and how that led to the career path that you chose, and how about your outlook where you are today?
Well, good question. Georgia, oh my goodness. So I came to the US as an immigrant. My parents came, sacrifices, leaving the home, the country for the freedom for their kids, which is now the land of the opportunities, for us to make a difference, and just having that freedom to do what we would like versus in the communist country, right? To be
Mm,
dictated everything that you do. But with that said, it's having that sacrifices as for the parents. And when I came here, did not know any English, so having that as the gratitude is always in my heart, meaning
mm,
knowing that it's their sacrifices is where I am right now is because of them. So to to that effect is I've led a life always with gratitude to this
mhm,
day. And then after, when we came to the US, my father passed away with cancer. But at first he was diagnosed with kidney stone. And then they went to surgery and saying, oh, after the surgery, now he have liver cancer, quote unquote. So at that time, because you're new to the country, there's people who's been here like maybe in past 1975. Now we just came to the US, later, and they were like, maybe you have a malpractice, maybe something went wrong. You need to look into further. But having the financial, we didn't have the money, we didn't have the support, we have no friends, no family. How can you even look, to look at that situation? So now that I think it also has an impact to say, I need to find out
mhm.
more than what's going on, meaning to help other people, my family, to not only educate on health and wellness in the medical field. And that was one of the seeds that continue dropping. And so
Yeah.
it's it's my passion to see that when I went to my career, I see people don't treat their patient as their family. And then after I gone to my career path, I've seen people are so frustrated and not happy. And for me, when I see all the news, but for me, I still feel like, why are they not so happy, right?
Right.
Because the gratitude is one. They didn't see the positive side, right? They didn't see that they're still serving the patient. So if giving whatever situation that you have, make the best of it, but then treat it with that love and nurturing, right? That you're in it to help to serve. It's not about, oh, they're giving me too much tasks, too much metrics and KPI and all this. So now you throwing I don't care, oh, the burnout, and just patient as a number. That become your treatment philosophy, your
Mm,
eye to your workflow is different, right?
right.
If I treat you just a number, then oh, I don't care if this person's gonna make it or not. Versus if you care for someone like your family, you want to take care of how it's being treated, how you want to word it, and how you want to take care during their illness. And that was one of the things that I've noticed, that we have to kind of change. It's not just about treatment of, oh, okay, you got to go surgery. Here's a pill, right? Here's a
Mhm.
prescriptions. Go get it. If you don't get it fixed, come back to see me. If you don't get well, come back. And it's just really just making money. That is all it is. If you look at, and when you're in management, people make decision based on money.
Yep.
Again, what's the biggest bottom line is either what's the biggest return on investment to get profit margin. It's not about serving the patient on based on their core values and their purpose of serving. And that was where I had enough. I was like, cannot be. How can we be in this situation when people can't even afford medications, right?
Yep.
That's one. And how can providers, going this putting themselves and saying that is the reason for the system, but not doing anything about it. So if I feel like, okay, if you don't like it, you have to find a way to change it, get out of it. Because when you're in it, you are collective karma. You are saying condone to it. You
Yep.
are saying, I agree, go ahead and continue harming the patients, right? That is where I feel like, no, we have to step up and say, we can do this. We can do it much better. And there's lots of people that will say, no, this is not, it gotta stop. So
Yep.
we gotta find ways to make it work for our people. This is who we are. We're here to serve, to help people. And that's who, like for me, I always have that finding a ways to help people. It doesn't matter what industry, what career path, because before I went to pharmacy school, I was always in the beauty, meaning take care, like beautify, cosmetology, sales. I mean, it's just the business aspect. But really, at the end of the day, it's serving. The customer service, everything is the same. If you take care of your people, your people will come back to you. Plain and simple. But if you're not transparent, it's not everything is transparent. You show them everything that you said you would do.
Right.
But people who are smarter than you can pick it out. They're gonna have that. We're gonna have a conversation, right?
Yep.
And I truly see that is my burning fire. I think every day is changing, especially in healthcare, George.
Hmm.
Just imagine now all the pharmacists, all the doctors, and all the nurses tapping out, burn out, and they leave. What would happen to our elderly? What would happen to our next generation? Right? And then for me, I also see another aspect that's forgotten is holistic approach. For me, it's not just treating a patient as a one pill, like a pill for an ill. It
Mm.
doesn't fit that way. That pill might work for an A patient, but it doesn't work for a B patient. So I think not only looking at holistic approach, meaning your mind, body, and soul, and
Yep.
spiritually, is so important. And I think when people look at studies, if you look at a glass of water, if you really have prayers like sincerity, pray with your thoughts and loving, that water become medicine. But if you have ill intentions and having like harmful to that person, this water become toxic, like being a poison. So that is the literally the power of moving your not only energy, but there's things that I think in our naked eye we cannot see,
Right.
but other powerful that can see are saying that that is the truth. Meaning you can have all the water that we can filter alkaline or the best water in the world, but our thoughts are so toxic, it's killing us from the inside. It's not about the outside. We got to hone into our inner self. And it start with us here. So
Yeah.
because everything start here.
Yeah. I agree. It seems that on some level, the people that are most in a society that is sick, those who are well adjusted are the sickest among us. And I was one of those. Like, I think a lot of us go through these phases where we find ways to make ourselves fit into situations that we know are uncomfortable, that we know are wrong, but we're afraid. We're afraid to be that person that stands up and is like, not another minute of this. I'm going to do something. A lot of us think that. And on some level, like you spoke about, I think we become the medicine. When our thoughts become more pure, when we get to that point of not another day, not another minute, all of a sudden, we become that beacon of light for others to hope for. And you've done it. And so many people listening to this have done it where they stood up for something they believed in. And other people came to them and are like, hey, thanks for doing that. And you have no idea who you can influence when you listen to your heart and you do the right thing. Like, people are watching. Maybe something bigger than people are watching, but you are like that little stone in the pond that radiates ripples when you create an act of kindness. It affects everybody around you, and it affects people on a level that you may not ever thoroughly understand, but it does. And I would argue that we are obligated to become the very best versions of ourselves, and that's when we begin to transform society. And we see it. Like, I see the people in the comment section of the things that you're doing. I see the interviews that you're doing. and I see the passion for which you go out and you speak on a daily basis out there, like talking to people and radiating this love for people. And I'm hopeful that the future of well-being will be like this flame that catches on. But looking ahead, like, do you see the future of well-being and holistic living? How do you see the future of well-being and holistic living for individuals and larger societal context moving forward?
So for me, I see the movement of shifting not only depending on bluntly, just Western medications, right?
Okay.
There's other modalities. And when we talk about miracles, my mother-in-law recently went to a traditional family practice and gotten all the x-ray and all the things. And she was literally were not able to walk in 2 weeks, not a single food in her body. But she did not able to walk. But when we took her to acupuncture, okay, holistic and other modalities that we implement at home, it changed her life and she was able to walk, talk,
Mm-hmm.
mentally better. But before it was that downhill, like literally, it's like a higher force that sucked the life out of someone, right?
Yeah.
And there's no cure, they don't know what's going on, they can't explain it. But that is why I think for us to have this conversation is people who were giving the diagnosis do not just take that first opinion, get a second, a third opinion, right?
Yeah.
And then look at other options that are out there holistically, plant-based medicine, right? Because it's been thousands and
Yep.
thousands of years. But the reason why I stand it's going to be sound like I'm a hypocrite, but because the pharmaceutical are the one the giants, right? Are making money, right? They don't
Yep.
want you to be cured. They want you to still be ill so they can control and that's the feeding into their money, their
Right.
ecosystem. Because if they treat you well and then you don't need the medication, you're not depending on it, then what can they do to continue making money? The
Yeah.
obviously is there's a side effect when you take this. You keep so I'm gonna give you another pill for that side effect that you had now you have a stomach ulcer from that
Mm-hmm.
medication. And then you keep on taking that. Oh, now I'm having this other side effect. Now I'm having a rash. I'm gonna give you prescriptions for that, right? So it keep on going. You add
Yeah.
on from one source,
Yep.
right? One illness without looking at how we can do it in holistic on all the different factors because I know the system push the healthcare practitioner and doctors. They're not giving the time. I get it. I'm in
Yeah.
there. I know. But with that saying, we have to be the leaders who saying enough is enough. We have to make policy. We have to add things. We have to be the voice for
Yep.
our patient advocacy. Because if you were on the other side of the table laying down as the patients, would you want a quick fix either here's a pill or a surgery? Oh, it doesn't work. Oh, you don't have that much left, right? So that's it. Like meaning it's just so there's no feeling to the patient when you're giving them a diagnosis. I had Mark. He's a leader of like cancer society, and they're giving a diagnosis of 7 weeks to live. Now he's like thriving in years, years, years. But just imagine the physician just telling you, just go ahead and prepare because for the worst because you don't have I can't cure you. I can't. There's no and just imagine if someone believe and trust you as a doctor, but the way you handle and how you frame that
Yep.
person terminal, oh, I don't have that much time left. That is the it's just like so if someone doesn't have the willpower on their own to fight for their own life, they will go downhill because it's mental over mind over matter, right? Because the same pill, if I give you a placebo with
Right.
no drugs versus nothing in it, and I say, "Oh, here you go, just take it, follow me." The instructions so and so, and you take it, you think this is the powerful. I said, "This is a magic pill. It's a higher dose, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's a lower or nothing in it, right?
Right.
No, nothing ingredient, and you believe in it. It's the power of your mind, and
Yep.
that is where I want to give people hopes that there are miracles. There's other modalities. There's holistic. I mean, there's so much, and you know this, and you would. I see implementing, holistic plant based. I see that respectful for our natures,
Sure.
because if we don't respect our natures, Mother Nature's, right,
Yeah.
all the things, we just burning and killing all the trees and just being, like modernized. Where are you gonna have any plants and grass and trees and fruits and all the things that support our system? And I think that just having respect for one another as a human being, and then even the animal to me, and I don't, people will have a different belief, but to me, it's also be kind to them, because, there's people who, because when people say, well, I have to eat that because, it's a way to live. Is it really? People who's vegan or people who are vegetarian can live it well. I'm not saying that go one extreme to another, but kind of do your research, right? To see what's
Yeah.
best for you at that moment of time to get you well. There's so much that, data out there, but when you talk about data that people publish, as in you have to look at it. Is it pharmaceutical? You
Right.
have to read all the things that is being published. It takes money. It takes a lot of things to publish a data. So we're talking about big players. It's not just people who are treating that are the small people making a difference. There's things that are being passed down thousand and thousand of years that works.
Yep.
And it's just that is where I've seen the transition on medicine, George. And then also for me, I see of meditations, the shifting our energy, right? People
Yeah.
are doing breath works. I see that is because for me, that is how it shifts when I've dealt with our own grief, with the loss of our nephew. And because we're coming from a spirituality really strong, to have a big impact like that, you seek deep, deep, deep more into your spirituality when it's the most trying time.
Yep.
And I think that's where people right now, right? I've seen that we need to have a calling for to have a inner works, to have that prayers, to have that spirituality awakening, because that is where I think we're lost in this world because we're looking at outside for solutions, but it should be looking at us, how we led to now, and what can we do to make a difference for us. One person can change so many lives, and it starts with us. Until we change here, our hearts and our mind, we can't change anything, because that's where a lot of things start, because people always say, well, it's so hard, it's hard to change. But if I think it's shifting, is it hard to change, or is it because not willing to do the work, right?
Yep.
Being consistent to follow the process, and trust the process to find a better way for you. Because if you're stuck and if you're fed up with the system, then you have to find a ways. So if you want to live a life of your own design, like George right now in Hawaii, then you have to find ways to make it work for your own, not only as your belief, your values, but what you stand for. Because at the end of the day, you have to be able to be okay with it, to be able to sleep at night. And I think that is where I see, genetic testing. I see, epigenomic. I see genomic. I see DNA testing. But really, all that is fancy. But really, for me, honing in for a useful tools that can deal with every day, that whether it's people call it meditation, whether it's mindfulness for our thoughts
Yep.
that come in, and how we interact. It's the same phrase, but how we interact when someone offends us. Do we judge? Do we quickly, jump to conclusion and want to either say bad thing back? Or if someone are going through a hard time, do we judge and, well, not judge, but in a way give advice, saying, "Oh,
Hmm.
New or George, you should do this because of based on your own perspective." And I think that we have to kind of reframe and want to pause, put a breakdown, and just listen to them, and maybe ask, get to know them first, And I think that is the core of everything, is getting to know one another on a deeper level before we make any treatment, right? And
Yeah.
then how that Pacific, because we're all unique. The same method will work to someone, but it would not work to, that is where the personalized uniqueness of how it is now. And it just more so than ever, because I think we're so, the technology bring us together. So more information and we can streamline, we can do a lot of things that is showcased, but it's been here thousands of years. I've went to conferences that are like people who are in the medical field now helping people going through the energetic work, right? On a meditations world. But that has been always been a thousand of years, right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing of what that will shift you, your mindset and everything that you want to have successful in business, in your life. It start with you. And if you don't look inward and you just look outward and finding solution and all the tools and whistle and bells, at the end of the day, you're not going to be happy, right? You
Yeah.
have to look inward, and I think that's it's a big missing in our society, George.
Yeah. I agree. I think that and I love that you can see the changes and that shift beginning to happen because I can see them too. And maybe it's because of where we are in our life, or maybe it's because we're experiencing it right now. But I do see more and more people. I think it's contagious in a way. Like when you start taking responsibility for your life and you start realizing, hey, I can be better. You know what? I can be a lot better. And I don't like the way I'm treating these people. And then you start realizing I don't like the way I'm treating myself. Because a lot of the times, the way we treat other people is the way we treat ourselves. If you ever notice, sometimes it's easier to notice this in somebody else first. And here's a little exercise everybody can do. When you find yourself in a confrontational situation, be it at work or home, or maybe you just witness one, the person that is having an emotional outburst is usually the way they're treating someone else is the way they treat themselves. So if you listen to the language they use, you're like, wow, listen to the language that person's using. They probably have that same language for their internal dialogue. And if you just think about that for a minute, it'll click and you'll be like, wait, the way I have an outburst is the same inner dialogue that I have. And that will give you the first perspective shift where you can start changing it, being like, you know what? Maybe I don't like talking to that person that way because I don't like the way I talk to myself. And you start to see this whole other language emerge, like the way you interact in nature, the way and it, like you said, as outside as so inside. Like if you look at our society, the way we practice the capitalism or the way we practice the society is kind of the way we treat ourselves. And so when you begin having that shift internally, you begin to shift the community. And one, like you said, one person can begin to make a difference because what happens when you start making a shift inside yourself, people notice and they're like, hey, what's Nhu doing? I really like her style all of a sudden. It's kind of nice to be around her. Have you noticed the way she talks? Like you attract people and it's contagious. The same way we have been trained to think of illness as contagious, so too is wellness contagious. And that's part of the shift I see happening. And it's noticing the pharmaceutical companies that are, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but on some level, they're selling addiction. Here's this pill. Get back on the treadmill. Oh, that one doesn't work. Try this one. And I don't know why they call them side effects. They're all just effects. This one clears your headache, but it also gives you a stomach ache. They're both effects. Not one is better than the other. They're equal. And it's fascinating to see society on that level. And I love the way you're explaining that in helping people move through those systems and talking about the community impact that it has. And I'm curious too about when you think about community impact. We've spoken a little bit about how an individual can change the community, and we've talked a little bit about how things are shifting. But what do you see in the immediate where you're at right now and the impact that this shift is having on the community? What do you see there?
So on my personal life, or your
Sure.
time.
Let's do both.
So
Let's do. Yeah.
let's do a little snippet. So
Okay.
when I did a deep dive, at first, when people always think it's success or whatever that we come across or now are able to have the calmness.
Hmm.
It doesn't work overnight, and it takes lots of practice.
Yeah.
And my nephew passed away 2020, so it's like 3 years now. And every time our holidays gathering, my birthday, Christmas is never the same. And when people, when we think of the survival guilt or people are stay behind, they're more
Mm.
hurtful. Like
Yeah.
people who survive a massive shooting, they're the survivor, or like in a car wreck. Just imagine the mental capacity that they have to handle to continue on living, right? Not much talking about
Right.
thriving, just the mental sanity of what's going on.
Hmm.
But the society, it's grief and loss and all the trauma they expect. Okay, I'm so sorry, but today's Monday, get back to work, right? I mean, the reality is they don't give you the grace. They don't give you say, oh, we're gonna give you a little grace on your rental or your mortgage,
Right.
right? No, there's none of that. And I think that the society on the role on it, the impact, the mental health on someone that come through such a situation like that, it's so it feel suffocating in a way that no one understand what they gone through,
Yeah.
because no one would, because unless you gone through the same situations, it's so hard to know that even though they can say, well, they shouldn't have done this or the family did this. But just imagine for someone to pull their own trigger. What would
Mm.
it be like for them to take their own life, right? And then, or even for me, looking as um, a well, I guess I can tell you this as a hostage survivor myself. Okay. You probably don't know this.
No.
So, from a hostage survivor myself, looking in a perspective of someone pointing that at you, not at you, meaning they didn't come at from a standpoint of they're coming to get you, but now you are a hostage, right? You're in that situation and you're coming out of it. But in the middle of it, in the meat of it, you have to think of how and what led them to be there. If you have compassion, to have
Hmm.
empathy and feel hurt for them, then you put yourself in a different role. Then you are just only a victim. That is where I think for me to make it out alive to this day to tell the story is because I empathize. I see their pain. I see that
Right.
they were hurt, right? So I'm trying yes, I know that you're hurting. I don't know all the, what led you to what, to pull a trigger, to do all the bombs. I mean, just as a for someone so smart, but led to the path of no return. Just imagine you don't have a life anymore. But then how can you get them out? So they know that to release you, but also look at the family that you're leaving behind. Psychology is
Hmm.
right because
Yeah.
I mean the one holding the gun is also a person, a human. It could be your brother and sister. And so I
Yep.
think that moment of shifting our mind, just the thought that you're hurting because they're hurting because they have to go so extreme to to be in that position. And I think that is where our society doesn't have that. They're
Right.
only just thinking about me, meaning I'm the victim here, right? You cause harm, you cuss at me, you my mental health, all the trauma, but you don't see what we done as a society
Right.
contributing, whether we stay quiet when someone is abusing another person, that's still not okay, right?
Right.
And I think that is the call out to say we have a bigger role that we need to step up and say we cannot be this way anymore. And I think that coming from love, of course, because I love people and it shows because I'm willing to make sacrifices for others people well-being. So at the moment, for me to release and saying, "Well, just take me versus take everybody in the shop, just to release everybody." So, for me, going back now having two kids, I would do the same because you would not want someone that have a family and kids, just imagine what would happen if they were stuck behind. So having that bigger, there's a bigger purpose of being in that situation. I think I have that mental capacity to be able to handle it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was traumatized, right? I
Right.
wasn't that, but I have things that help me, right? Help me in the moment and also in the way to get out of it and to heal. But
Hmm.
I think as us as knowing and loving for one another, to forgive someone, right? To be
Right.
the bigger person, to say, I'm sorry, that's gone, whatever happens. But you have to be the bigger person to sorry for them, even though they're hurting you. So they can let go of whatever bitter and anger they gone through in their life. And I think it's just sometimes it's so sad for me to see people always pointing like, no, they did this to me, or whatever it is, it's all about me. When you hear about
Hmm.
the story and people want to talk about gossip and oh he, she, this, and they go in circle on so many different, but I think when you stay true to who you are and you still love one another and you show kindness and love as your true self,
Yeah.
there's nothing that I wasn't willing to show. I'm raw. I'm transparent as I am. And I
Right.
think because when you show up like that, people will see your true nature. But when you don't, you have that wall, that mask put on, people can't gravitate to you because they know that you're not really real, right? You're not genuinely
Yeah.
care for someone else out there. And I think that is
Right.
so the impact that people live in nowadays, ego, greed, self-centered, it's everything about me, right? And when you talk about it's all that, my family, my sister, my brother. But if you say we all in this together, we are one
Yeah.
human being, one human being. Being
Yeah.
is we have to be in the present for one another. And that's the biggest gift for us to be kind, to share love, compassions. Without it, we're not much less than an animal, isn't it? I mean, much some of the animals are more loyal, right? When you
Yeah.
really talk about it, because people always think defensive. But when we look at it on the characteristics, we are smarter, but doesn't mean smarter if we're going to cheat the system, right? And hurt one another. Is That's not how we should use our smartness and our
Yeah.
intelligence. We should be creative and help one another. And I think until we lower, that's where war and everything start. I feel like politics and everything, it start because of our greed and ego, right? Of wanting
Yeah.
control. I want to
Yep.
control this. This is mine. You're not taking it. So everything is like a bump head. But if we really love one another and show love and kindness and grace and forgiveness, it's the solution of what a lot of things are going on right now. And mental health is like it's huge, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, when we talk about mental health, there's so much. I mean, we can talk about for days, right? And and the things that like the medication that people are being given that will have so much side effect versus plant based, that you can utilize. So it's just I just think that as us individually, we need to empower people to take back the control. They have it within themselves or find
Yeah.
people that rally and support them so they can nurture and be the beacon for their own lives and for their own family. Because all the things and people that are out there, we want to give them the hope that knowing that there's someone out there care for them than just all the money, 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 and everything is just about, it's that's the sad world that we live in. But now with you, George, you're the positive, right? You create all the things, you blast off. No, and I love your energy because I think, when you show up as you, who you are and what you're so excited for, you just I mean, we talk from our heart, right? We don't
Right.
need to we don't need to create anything and it shows. And I think it's just the impact that you are able to make is so huge. And it's not about our career path and what our
Right.
title is. And that is where people need to lower our ego and
Yeah.
our guard, and really that's where our next generation will be better, and it will be better for our own lives.
Yeah. I really think that there's power in creation. And I know for me, when I come on and I do a podcast, like I get excited. Like I'm really excited to talk to you and these other people and discuss these cool topics. But in these moments, like I'm excited because I'm really living. Like I'm here with you and I'm having this conversation. And in the act of creating, there is no past and there is no future. There's nothing to be depressed about or there's nothing to have anxiety about. I'm not worried about what someone did to me a minute ago. I'm not worried about a conversation that I had because I'm really focused on what you're saying. I'm learning and I feel like we're having this free flow exchange. And I think for other people, whether you're doing a podcast or whether you're fishing or maybe you're making dinner or maybe you're reading a book or you're cleaning your house, whatever you're doing, if you can focus that you're actively doing something, if you can live in this creative moment, then you're free from the anger. You're free from the guilt. And if more people can live in that space, if they can live in the now, I think it goes a long way to relieve yourself of the anxiety, to relieve yourself of the depression, to give yourself a break from that constant pressure that's telling you you're not enough, or you don't have enough money, or this thing's going to go wrong, or you still have this problem in your life. Like, I'm not saying people should run away from that, but I am saying people should embrace that there are things that they can't control. And the more they try to control them, the more out of control their emotions get. So if you can focus on, okay, well, right now I'm doing this thing and I'm going to work on this thing. Sometimes if people just get out of their own way, it goes a long way in having a better relationship with themselves. Obviously, sometimes we're punishing other people for the things that we don't like about ourselves, and it's being trapped in the past. Or I have a copy of the DSM, which is the diagnostic manual. And sometimes
Mhm.
I'll just flip through there and look at these diseases and I'm like, man, these seem to me to be ailments of a person who is more than neurotic, and it's not
Mhm.
so much a mental illness as it is a reaction to a life that they're not living. And I think a lot of people could pull themselves out of there and they could really gain control of maybe not how life's going to be in the future or what something happened, but they can control what life means to them. Maybe that's where it is, right? Like you can't control what happens, but you can control the meaning of the event on some level, right?
Yes, it's so true. It's not how many people can really be in the present moment, George.
It's
Many
hard.
people it's here, but then their mind is like, oh, I have grocery, I have
Yep.
oh, what's for work? Oh, I have to do a recording, this and that, and they're not really in the moment. And so when you really saying in the moment, it's just set intention, even if you're walking, right?
Yeah.
Explore the nature, the trees, the wind, all the
Yeah.
beauties that's there. But when you're not, either you're listening to something or you're doing a texting or LinkedIn, YouTube, or whatever, you're listening to podcasts, so your mind is diving into that conversation. So it's really that minor that people don't think that is so important, but that little thing will make a difference in your life, and you will see things that you don't see before.
Yeah.
And that's the transformation. And I think when you do the work, not only you see the changes how you are, because it's your reactions, right? And other people will also have that ripple effect, because
Yeah.
now you're not reacting the way you used to. Now the other people is gravitating, say, wait a minute, I just did that and she was calm, she didn't say anything. So that kind. So I think that is where they probably have to question themselves versus if
Yeah.
you talk back, right? So there's a lot of things that even the power of staying silent sometimes might have a bigger answer, or it's just nothing, than saying a lot of things. So, and I
Hmm.
think it's because the society is the doing, got to do it now, the hustle, and the social media of fancy house and all the
Yeah.
shiny objects. It's hard for people to go back to sometime being simple. Simple things can make a transformation, like simple things that you make one changes in your life, right?
Yeah.
Will change how your life will be. but it has to, you have to know that it start with us. We can't expect other people, like, when you have family, you have other things, you like, I want them to change because they're mean, this and that. You can't change them. You have to change how you deal with each individual.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that it amazes me sometimes is it's not about, because sometimes people want to control, and that is the control piece, right?
Right.
Your spouse, your kid, you know, as a parent, you want to be controlled because they didn't act the way you like it. So you're gonna discipline. You're gonna have consequences. But then sometime, or like as a husband and wife, it's the same philosophy, but it's uh, you want the change that you want to see. It start with you. You have to make the seed. Like you have to do the work to
Mm-hmm.
plant that trees for the next ripe. But it's like an art of living,
Yep.
literally, to be mindful of all the things that you're putting out in the universe, in your own universe. And it starts with our thoughts. And
Yeah.
it's so phenomenon that people who don't know, but I feel like when they realize that you have it all, if you silence and not do too much sometimes, just have 5 minutes every day, right? People say, I don't have much time. Can you really answer yourself saying 5 minutes a day? Okay. Do we spend more than 5 minutes on a phone, right? Do we
Mm-hmm.
have more than 5 minutes on gossiping? And some
Mm-hmm.
people, it just pause and do a little of me time so you can be better, for a better version of yourself, so you can help others.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's got 5 minutes, and if you don't wake up 5 minutes earlier, then there it is. Sometimes I wonder, it seems to me, and I know from my life, some of the most traumatic experiences that I've have been really deep, reflective moments. Maybe at the moment, there's some pain and some struggle and some things to go through, but looking back on some of the most transformative parts of my life where someone I loved dearly had passed away, or there was an accident, or sometimes these things that happen. It's these pauses, this interrupting of the pattern of daily life that allows reality to sink in sometimes. And I'm wondering, from your perspective as a doctor and as someone who has seen her own fair share of traumatic moments, and you're probably around it more often than a regular person because of your profession, but do you think that that allows more time for you to have reflection? And maybe that is one of the reasons why you're able to see so many of these things, is because you're around people that are constantly having these moments of calamity or trauma. And you're able to see people stop for a minute and make changes in their life. Like, is that something that's affected you?
Um, well, the biggest change, I mean, I see when we talk about, let's say in healthcare, is, like lots of people in the hospital who doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
family member, or like it's just so sad that
Yeah.
they're at their life, they work all their life, right? Even if you have tons of money or not, at the end of the day, when you're on your deathbed and you're not able to function, it's really frustrating, right? To not only not be able to talk, not be able to do the things that you love to do, the eat, the move, and you're in a hospital, lonely.
Yeah.
And to have that healthcare provider making around and having conversations that like a child to a mother, or to a grandmother or grandpa or a kid. If you treat it with that person have hopes to live.
Mm-hmm.
That hopes of for the patients to live is it's more of more than any treatment you can give a patient. And that is what I've seen, the aspect of the human kindness, human to human,
Yeah.
and that empathy, that compassion, and that love extend to that patient goes beyond the measurement of a treatment protocol. And I think when you embody, yes, you can have, there's a time and place for treatment modalities and pills and all that when they're in a terminal ill and anything, but you have to treat them as a human being like they're your own family, your brothers and sister and grandmother. When you do so, that love that you relay through your
Hmm.
words and your actions, it will radiate. That alone will have a ripple effect on that patient and that team members. And it keep
Yeah.
on having that ripple effect. And I think the same way for me on my lowest point would be, you know, I've seen so many things. And then when my, nephew passed away, have a rude awakening of this is our society of not being aware of all the things that can affect someone. Meaning, it could be a words, it could be because during the pandemic, everything shut down, right? People don't have that interactions. And I
Yeah.
think when you have less of interaction, you have to be more sensitive to how people are. And I think it taught us one thing is when people are in their lowest moment, we don't know what it looks like. They could
Right.
be looking like everything's fine, but
Yep.
inside, they are in the darkest moment. How are we able to get them out, to give them that hope and love and kindness that they are yearning for, and they feel like no one understand them, no one really care about them, to have a hope to continue living, right? And I think that is where we as a society play a role in all of it. We need to be the change we want to see anything changes, it start with us. A lot of people say, I want this, I want that, the system, but we have to ask ourselves a reflections of what are we doing to be a
Yep.
part of it, right? Are we just being a silo and continue making the paycheck and ride the system and go with the flow and treating patient as just a number? Or are we really caring for that patient as if it was our family? It's our duties, it's our responsibilities. When you take the oath and you're here to serve, right, for one another, and not many patients have a patient advocacy in their pocket or around to take care of them. And that's the sad part. And I think having that, knowing that everyone is different, you have to have a heart to know that so many different people are lacking just the basic of what we have, and we're not even seeing that. So to be able to change any perspective is having the gratitude of
Yep.
what we have now will change our shift for things that how we deal with one another, how we want to react. Before we react, how about we think of things that we be proactive and doing then reactive. And I think in our healthcare right now, and even in just in general, is reacting, right? We need to get ahead of being proactive, not just reacting to it's already done. And it's
Yeah.
it's, it's a deeper conversation, but I know we're just scratching the surface on a lot of things that I see that it's a lot of change that needs to happen. And it starts with the leaders, right? The
Yep.
leaders, we gotta to own up to our responsibility. And for me, when I see leaders, we're not talking about just as the employer. The leaders is the employee also. Every
Yeah.
single one of their part play a part. So it's not just a manager, a boss. We all is a leader in itself. You need to take ownership in your own life, your own well-being.
Yep.
Well-being is physical body, mind, and everything is start with you. You
Yep.
cannot let someone else dictate and
That's
control
right.
your thoughts and saying you're not worthy and you are so and so. You have to take that back. You're in this earth for a reason. You're in this earth for a higher calling.
Yeah.
And that is where I just want people to know that, people are out here wanting to pass on that message so that way everyone can thrive and have a well-being not only in the physical body but my mental because it's harder to treat mental than the physical body, right?
Hmm.
Physical, you see it heal, but your mind, that is where we have to, it's a deeper conversation than the surface of looking if the scars heal on your school on your womb, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you can see the wounds on the outside, but you can't see them on the inside. And I think you made a
Yeah.
brilliant point when who knows what who knows the face of depression. The face of depression can wear a smile all day long, but
Yep.
just be so burned out inside that it tears them apart. And a lot of people are, I mean, it's sad to think about the people that I've known that have taken their own life or attempted to take in their own life, and you didn't even know. It's like, what? No way. Like and it, I hope that everybody today can find a little bit more compassion when dealing with themselves and other people, because I think that's the antidote. Is you don't know what that person's going through. Maybe cut them a break, cut yourself a break, and realize that I think it was Robin Williams who left in his last. He made a video before he committed suicide, and it was something along the lines of give people a break. Everyone is going through a tragedy that you have no understanding of. And if you can just think about that when you see someone who's upset, or just think about that when you see another human being, like everyone's got their own tragedies and maybe they're going through theirs right now. I think the world could always be better with a little bit more compassion and understanding. So Dr. New, this is amazing. I love talking to you, and we got to have more of these conversations because I think, like you said, we just kind of scratched the surface of them. So, but before I let you go, where can people find you? What do you have coming up, and what are you excited about?
They can find me on LinkedIn, at Dr. Nhu Truong and or at knhealthconsultants.com. And then it's a lot of things are coming. And I think 2024 it's going to be an amazing year. We have a lot of collaborations coming, and I think just it's something that I think when you see a purpose or a need, I guess, for
Mm,
people to hone into a simple things, that's where the innovative and creating solutions become. It's where it's not about making money, it's about serving and where you see the gaps, close the
yeah,
gaps and help people. And that alone, and I want every single one that are listening through your podcast know that they can do anything, right? They
yeah,
can do anything they wish and they want to. Just take baby steps. But don't let anyone say that they cannot, or, otherwise you are not only powerful as yourself, if you don't know it, surround yourself with powerful people. Learn from people who have gone ahead of you,
yeah,
and just really be surround a community that will cheer you up, lift you up. And when you, even if you're watching and you feel like they are the one that kind of inspire me. Stay tight to them, like George, like for instance, and just keep on listening to his podcast and learn from people who's in his podcast. But no, but and seriously, it's just because in order for us to grow, we have to be open to seeing what
yep,
other perspective is out there, and into we are kind of close on all the things that we have already been paint a picture by our communities, by things that's been, you know, conditioned to us. Let's try to have a blank page and see what the new things that you want to write on the new page. What would you want to write? And I think, there's a lot of things that when you become positive, you lift yourself up and others to cheer you on, you'll become unstoppable. And then you can lift others. And I think, when you lead with love, kindness, and have empathy and compassion, what can't you do, George?
limitless.
There you go, right? And that is where the universe will bring on you the right people. I truly believe that, and I'm honored, grateful to be in your presence, George. It's always great not only talk to you, but your just abundance of love And when you someone genuinely care and wants the best, you can see in their smile, right? You can
Yeah.
see in how they talk. It's not a fluff. It's not something for show, because when it's a lot of work. It's not easy. Nothing's easy. If you're thinking George doing podcasts is easy, nothing's easy. But it's worth it, isn't it, George? So
Yeah.
that is where I think, just having that mindset shift will change your life.
Yeah.
And I can't think of anything else but sending my love, my gratitude, prayers to all those who are in the healing, to have a healthy, speedy healing, and to always be healthy, happy, and abundance of love and joyful and prosperity.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, hang on briefly. I'm going to talk to you afterwards briefly, but to everybody who got to hang out with us today, I want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts. I really appreciate everybody that listened, and more than that, I'm really thankful that we can all be part of the change that's going to make the world better. So I'm really thankful to everybody, and go and check out Dr. Nhu. For those listening, you probably already know her, but she is an incredible source of well-being and light and warmth and comfort. And I suggest everybody go and reach out to her and check out what she's doing. She's got plenty of books out there, and we've just barely scratched the surface on some of her wisdom. And she cares and has a lot of compassion, and she's addictive to be around. So that's all we got for today, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you have a beautiful day. Aloha.